anxious attachment. And so when you go through the different attachment styles, there's one correlating thread that goes through all of them, and that is fear. A person who is not securely attached is afraid. They could be afraid of being abandoned. It could be a fear of abandonment. It could be a fear of commitment. But often what happens with an anxiously attached person and an avoidant person is that they have a fear of engulfment. A fear of engulfment is a concern that when they get too close to someone or things get too intense, they're going to lose themselves. Like they don't feel like they have a good ability to maintain their own boundaries. So their fear and their concern in a relationship is that someone is going to trample on them, trample on their boundaries, take away their sense of autonomy, their sense of self. And this is a really very strong concern to the point where people will leave their relationships or start to become distant as they get closer in relationships, which can seem ironic to the partner. And eventually they can start to sabotage the relationship. They can start fights with the person or just become very withdrawn in the relationship. And why are they doing this? Again, because it's a fear of engulfment. The reason why an anxiously attached person can develop a fear of engulfment, as well as an avoidant person, is they could have had a parent who was overly involved. Maybe they were a helicopter parent. So if you grew up with a helicopter parent, they were always checking in on everything you did, or they may have been hyper judgmental of your actions. Don't wear that, don't step there, don't go there. Why are you doing that? What is that supposed to be? Why? Right. And so since everything got criticized all the time, you didn't feel like you could be yourself around your parents. You didn't feel like you could relax or like you were accepted for being you. And all of that creates an engulfment. If your parents are controlling or they don't allow you to develop your own independence, all of that can create a sense of confusion for a child growing up into that scenario. It's like they love their parents, but they also hate that they don't have a self, a sense of self. And they really lose that sense of self where they can't even connect anymore to how they truly feel, who they truly are, what they truly want, because they're worried about what their parents want, what their parents feel, what their parents say. Some parents are so overbearing, you're not allowed to make any decisions for yourself. That can create the fear of engulfment later for a child. If you have parents who tell you can't go out, you can't go here, you can't do this, you can't do that, and that constant feeling of being hemmed in creates a confusion for the child because they want independence, but they also want to have the safety of the family and of relationships. So that can be very difficult, very confusing, and stifling to the growth of a child who grows up with enmeshing, overbearing, over controlling parents. Do you know anyone who had a situation like that? The worst thing that it creates for the kid who grows up to be an adult is that they look to the outside for their sense of validation. They kind of have a philosophy like, I'm okay if you're okay. Does that sound familiar? I'm not okay if you're not okay. And that's what can happen when you have parents that they're not balanced in their parenting. It can create in the child that anxious attachment. And an anxiously attached person feels like their well-being is based on the other person's well-being. Feels like they can't be okay if the other person's not okay. They can't be happy if the other person's not happy. And can you see how that could be problematic when you're basing your entire life and your entire well-being on the other person, what they're feeling, what they're thinking? You see how that gives them too much control in the relationship? And you see how it takes away your own autonomy, your own control to be really concerned, hyper concerned about what the other person's feeling. what it can feel like, because I have dated a person who was anxiously attached, and what it can feel like is like you're showing up almost like a blank person, or you're being dishonest. It can actually feel like you're not being forthright about what you want. And so you'll ask a person like that, like, well, I'm thinking this, but what do you want? And then the anxiously attached person's like, that's fine. It's like, yeah, I asked you what you want. I'm saying, like, what do you want to do? And the anxiously attached person goes, no, that's fine. Whatever you want to do is fine. I don't even know. I don't know. Just whatever you want to do. They're so blank in terms of their own feelings, their own emotions, their own wants, that they have nothing with which they can give you to guide you to be a better partner for them. So it becomes a disservice to your partners in your relationship if you can't tell them what you want, what you need, if you're not good at setting boundaries. So, like anyone, you're going to feel a sense of discomfort at times, but instead of protecting yourself in the relationship by standing up for yourself, you're just going to bury that sense of discomfort, bury that sense of discomfort, bury it until you blow up. And the blow up's going to be doing something that your partner did not expect. Like you just disappear, you run away, you pack all your things in the car and drive some direction. One woman said she packed all her stuff in the car and she started driving. She didn't know where she was going. She said, Roman, I had no idea where I was going. I just knew I had to get away. And then after I had driven for a certain amount of miles, I didn't know where I was going. And I eventually just had to turn around and go back home. You packed all your stuff to abandon your relationship, and then you ended up having to go back to it because you never actually had a proper plan as to where you were going. That's highly emotional. It's erratic, but it's the life of the anxious avoidant, right? So they're either running away from this relationship because it's becoming too much, or they're desperate and craving the relationship. And that worst part is looking to the outside for the validation. What you've learned to do as an anxiously attached person is to look outside yourself for soothing, for worth, for esteem, for validation, for reassurance. You're looking outside yourself for reassurance. Anyone here who looks outside themselves for someone else to make you feel better? When you become anxious, you look outside yourself for someone else to make you unanxious. When you get traumatized, you look outside yourself for someone else to untraumatize you, to the point where the same person who abused you and gave you the trauma is the person that you look to solve the trauma. And that cycle can get worse and worse. You keep going back to the same person. Why do you go back to that person? Well, they're the one that traumatized me. So I go back to them, hoping that I can feel better from the trauma that they caused me. Only they can make me feel better because they're the one who made me feel this way. And as you keep going back, how does that work out for you? Does that lead you to a happily ever after? Absolutely not. That will lead you to a sad ever after, a very anxious ever after, a more abuse ever after, a ending up in the hospital ever after, and ending up dependent on medications or drugs or alcohol ever after, because you never break out of the cycle of thinking that someone else is supposed to be the savior. Some people bounce to other relationships or even cheat while they're still in the last relationship because they're still looking to the outside to make them feel better. Maybe the next woman is going to make me feel complete. Maybe this next man is going to make me feel safe. The brokenness that we have to heal is the lack of trust in ourselves. We don't have a really great relationship with ourselves, to be honest. We're anxiously attached. We don't look to ourselves. We don't go to ourselves for soothing, for validation. We don't believe in ourselves. We don't have high self-worth and high self-esteem. Perhaps we think that all the power lies outside of us, but let's just slow everything down and solve this problem. Like literally just take a deep breath and just slowly let it out. We have to slow down and meditate. We can't live our life. Oh God, someone out there, someone out there. Other humans are not the answer. Other humans have knowledge that we might not have. True. And so it's okay to take counsel from experts, but just some random person is not necessarily this is the I met a guy and I like a guy, so he's the answer. It doesn't work that way. Other humans are equal to you. They're equal to you in value and worth. So that means their opinion is not more valuable than yours. Did you know that? The other people's opinions aren't more valuable than yours? So you don't need to. Do you think it would be okay? What do you I feel like this is unfair. What do you think? Do you think this is unfair? Do you think I was right for what I did? Do you think I was right for what I did in this relationship? So this is what I told him. I told him he needs to blah blah blah. Do you think that was right? Why are you asking everyone else? Why are you asking all these other people for validation? And you're not satisfied. You ask one person, they go, "Yeah, you're right." You go, "Thank you so much." And then you go over here to these people, "Hey guys, yeah, I got to tell you something. So this lady said this to me, and then I said this to her, and then so do you think that was right? Do you think what I did was right? Why are you doing that? Hey, I met a guy and I'm not so sure about him, but I think he's kind of this. I don't really know because it's kind of that. I don't know. What do you guys think? How is someone else going to tell you who's the right person for you? They don't even know the guy. The only thing they know is what you just told them. Ah, and here's where the manipulation comes in. Because when you want to be with the guy, then you want to tell them all the positive stories, how great this guy is, so that they reaffirm and revalidate what you're feeling. But when you realize you want to leave the relationship, then you want to tell every negative story, every bad thing that he did. Yeah, yeah, he did this and he did that. And meanwhile, your friends are like, oh my God, why are you even with this guy? You got to get rid of this guy. And meanwhile, this guy could be great. But you're just looking for validation. Let's just be honest. You're just looking for validation for your decision, and you don't know how to validate yourself. Here's a thought. Don't ask anyone's opinion about these personal decisions. I'm not saying it's not helpful to get counsel from a wise counselor who is an expert in a certain area, just like you would go to a doctor or a mechanic and you would prioritize at that point their opinion because their opinion is more educated and experienced than yours in that particular area, but you can't live your life is asking all of these people around you who do not have any special expertise in these areas, their life is in shambles too. Let's keep in mind that everyone is just struggling through this. So they cannot be your guides. You don't want to become the blind leading the blind, or worse, you're being the blind following the blind. You have to make your personal decisions. That means you have to slow everything down and meditate. When you're feeling anxious, don't go to your partner to get your anxiety solved. I feel really, really upset right now. I feel really upset right now. Oh, why do you feel upset? Because what you said to me, you said something that you did. Don't go to them for the calming of the down. Don't they don't calm you down. You calm you down. We have this big misconception. Someone can make me mad. They made me mad. What he did to you, that made me mad. That is a misconception, ma'am, sir. Nobody can make you feel. That's a weird thing to realize, but if we slow it down, we realize no one can make you feel anything. Think about it. When someone does an action or says words, that is contained in the outside of you. It doesn't make an emotion inside of you because your emotion are chemicals in your body that are being dropped into your bloodstream and electrical impulses in your brain and your interpretation of things. That's your emotions. No one can make chemicals drop in my system. Does that make sense? Unless they have a syringe or something, they didn't make me feel. Does that make sense? So let me stop saying that because she said this, that made me feel. And because he did this, that made me feel. And it's okay, in our language, that's the way we tend to say things, but don't actually believe that that's the way it is. That's not the way it is. Nobody can make you feel anything. Your emotions are self-contained. So to heal this, we need to learn to focus on the universe within. You can control the universe, but not the one outside you. The universe that you control is the universe within. Do you understand what I mean by that? Your perception, your mindset, your actions, even your chemicals are all under your influence, primarily. You have the ability to control the universe within. There is a finite amount of things that you can control. That is the universe within. The finite amount of things that you control is what I mean when I say the universe within. When you're so focused on the universe outside of yourself and you think that it's about getting all of these things outside of yourself to work properly so that you can feel a certain way, you are miscalibrated and you must fix that right here, right now, today. One gentleman thought maybe it wouldn't make him feel good to throw away certain memorabilia of his abusive father. He didn't know what to do. Do I throw this away? Do I keep this? That is a part of the universe without. That's outside of you. You don't need to worry about the memorabilia and the if you keep or if you get. The memorabilia doesn't make you feel. It's your attachment and perception and connection. It's what you're assigning to it. You assign the meaning to the stuff. You make it make you feel something. The stuff doesn't make you feel something. We need to learn to have that level of detachment. Oh, this stuff doesn't determine how I feel. It's just stuff. What people say, what people do, it's on the outside of you. Your emotion is connected to your perception of it. So they can't make you feel. Someone can say to me, Roman, you're a fool. How does that make me feel? It doesn't make me feel anything. It's my perception of what they said. Because if I perceive them saying, Roman, you're a fool, as them meaning that I'm not wise, that I'm not worthy, that I'm not good enough, then I'm going to feel negatively, bad. But that was my perception of what they said. If I perceive it as them saying it jokingly in a way as if to say, you are funny, Roman, you're a fool. But they're saying that because they just thought the last thing I said was so funny. And that was their expression. Now I actually feel accepted by what they just said. I feel good. That aligns with my values. It's not what they did, it's how I perceive what they did. Does that make sense? It's not what's happening around you in the universe. It's not whether or not your department gets a new head, you get a new boss at work, or you have a new job, or you have a car, or you don't have a car. That doesn't determine how you feel. It's your perception of the situation. I remember I remember when I started doing the trauma healing, I was doing everything for free. So I did the what was I doing? The sessions. I did the sessions for free and everything. So I didn't have any income coming in, and I started missing car payments. And one day I was working with a client, and I looked out of the window from my apartment and my car was gone. And I knew that sucker got repossessed. So then I had to go without a car for a while. So what happens when you have to go without a car for a while emotionally? Nothing. There is no change to the emotional state based on your outward circumstances. It's you who puts the perception on the situation. If you assign the value to that material thing, when you lose the material thing, then you will be distraught. But it doesn't make you feel. That's focusing on the universe without. My job is to focus on the universe within. What do I control? What can I do? I can control how I feel. I can control what I do. Frankly, I was prepared because I wasn't making payments. It's done. It's going to have to turn it in anyway. Couldn't afford it. When we face realities of life, no matter how traumatic we might think that this rates on a scale of trauma, ultimately we decide how we're going to feel about it. You don't allow the situation to dictate how you feel. You decide because you control the universe within. So, should we be looking to other people then for our validation? No. Set as a rule for yourself never, never to search for validation from the outside. This can cause us to become manipulative as well. Have you ever heard someone say something like, "Oh, I'm so ugly," but you know they're really doing that because they want you to say, "No, you're not. You're really pretty." Have you ever felt like that? Somebody's manipulating you? I've had clients admit to me they're manipulating me in the session. They're like, "Oh, I said that, Roman, because I wanted you to validate me." I'm like, stop trying to get validation from the outside. Because by the way, that doesn't usually work on me because I'm not gonna come in and try to coddle your feelings and give you what you want to hear. You say something like that to me, and I'm gonna be like, I wonder why they think that about themselves. I wonder why they don't understand that they need to validate themselves. I wonder why they have a detrimental frame about themselves. You understand? We need to stop trying to look on the outside for the validation. So set that as a rule. I don't look outside myself for my validation. I focus on controlling the universe within. Physically, we have blinking function, which is automatic. When you don't think about blinking, the eyes just do what they need to do, like a windshield wiper on auto, right? It's just like, we'll just blink when we need to blink to grab moisture for the eyes. Just keep the eyes nice and moisturized. So the system is really good. It typically will work like based on when you dart your eyes and you move. It's like we'll get a blink in right there. It's a very efficient system. Yeah, we'll get a blink in because he's going to move his eyes and we'll just get a little blink there. Right. You don't have to think about it. But then when you do think about it, then you can't not think about it. And you're like, oh my God, who's controlling this thing? I'm controlling this. Now I have to blink and you have to think about it. Right. So this is a semi-automated system that you jump into. Likewise, you have the breathing function that works the same way. When you don't think about it, your subconscious mind takes it over and it takes everything and it keeps you alive. It's been keeping you alive this whole time. You don't need to worry about it. But all of a sudden, you're worried about it now because I'm talking about it. When you think about your breathing, then you're like, I need oxygen. Right? And you start, right? You start realizing that you can actually draw in breaths and exhale. So, what you need to do when you're feeling anxiety is not look to the universe without and say, someone needs to come calm me. No, no, no. You control your breathing and the eyes too. It might be a good time to close the eyes or let the eyes go kind of like half mast, like this. And then we're going to take breaths in and then slowly let the breath out. I like to breathe like this. When I'm exhaling through a little O. So when I'm going through like something where I want to process quickly and I'll blow out like that. So you find a comfortable breathing technique for yourself. There's no right or wrong, right? You find a way. 4 seconds in, 5 seconds out is a good one. Try that and calm yourself down when you feel dysregulated. Your mother's yelling at you, your girlfriend's upset, your husband's being mean, he's being avoidant. Don't, why? Why aren't you? They're not the solution to your feelings. Focus on the universe within. I am okay. I am okay. I do not need anything from this man. I do not need anything from my husband right now. I'm okay. I don't like his behavior. I don't like his behavior, but I don't need anything from him. If anything, I need a little space. I need to take some time to myself because I can feel myself getting too overly hyper vigilant over his actions. We need to disconnect. And that's what allows us to heal this anxious attachment. Ultimately, we have to heal the core, which is the fear. That's easy to heal. It's actually easy. To heal the fear, we need to use our exposure therapy. So with all our techniques of regulating our breathing to stay calm or to get ourselves to calm and to focus on the universe within instead of the universe without to give us the validation and the soothing and the praise. Using those techniques, now we can face our fear. And the exposure therapy for the anxious attachment is going to be to have relationships with people where we take time ourselves to manage our emotions instead of going to them to manage our emotions. When you expose yourself to self-regulation and self-management, which is the tools that I just gave you, the breathing, you can use the JOT method. You can use the writing method of the control list, right? On one side, all of the things you cannot control. On the other side, all of the things you can control. Use a justification list to deal with the guilt. 5 things, 5 reasons why you're justified in taking the action that you took. Maybe you had to set some boundaries. Maybe you need to learn boundaries. So you use the tools or the videos, Healing School to learn the boundaries. There's a course called Boundary School inside of Healing School on my website. When we utilize these tools, now we can go into the relationship. We can converse with the person using the skills of assertiveness, which we learn inside Healing School. And then we can detach from the person and regulate ourselves instead of looking for someone else to regulate us. Validate ourselves instead of looking for someone else to validate us. Over time of doing this, and it doesn't have to be long, once you no longer have that fear that's driving you, the fear that you can't trust yourself, the fear that you're going to be abandoned and you can't be alone. Once you get past that fear, you're no longer anxiously attached. You're now a securely attached person, which means that you're able to look at an individual, you're able to feel love for the individual, but you're also able to be okay with losing them. You're able to be okay with them not being okay, with them not feeling good or happy with you. You're able to be okay with them not approving of you, with them needing to have a serious conversation with you. You're able to be okay because you control the universe from within. That's your universe that you focus on, and you allow them to control their own universe. Detachment, proper level of detachment from each thing, everything in its place. We got to organize. You like to organize, right? Let's put everything in its place. My feelings go in my box. What I'm thinking goes in my box. Your feelings go in your box. What you're thinking goes in your box. What you're thinking about me, is that in my box or your box? What you're thinking about me, that's your box. There you go. Now I don't have to worry about what you're thinking about me because that's your box. Making sense? Awesome.